Indiana's not a bad basketball team, but the defense is.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you making this your first listen each and every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, you can go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Indiana's not a bad basketball team, but the defense is pretty darn bad. Indiana defeats Wright State in their third game of the season, 89-80. And there's some good here and there's some bad here. I think there's a lot of good offensively for Indiana in this game, but I also think there's a lot of bad defensively for Indiana in this game. We'll kind of break down some of the stats, kind of look through some of the trends, and figure out what in the world this team is going to do on the defensive side of the floor. In this game, Indiana, I think they had their best start of the year, right? I think they started this game the best that we've seen all season long. It was within 5 or 6 minutes, you saw a double-digit lead, and Indiana was able to kind of play around with that for a little bit, right? Offensively, you had guys playing with urgency. Finally, you had guys who were getting the ball inside to Kel'el Ware, who had another absolute day that he always should. We'll talk about him in a second. But offensively, there was energy. There was some passion, if you will, and the ball was moving, and you were doing everything you needed to do. You were even hitting a couple of threes, which is kind of crazy, I know. But offensively in the first half, I think you got off to a good start, and you scored 54 points in the first half. That's as good as you can get, folks. I mean, that is exactly what you want. Most teams score in the 30s in the first half, maybe into the 40s. And this Indiana team, which has struggled offensively, especially in the first half, scores 54 points in the first 20 minutes. No complaints, really. I don't have any complaints in the first half on the offensive side, because defensively, I think you started really well. You started really well against a Wright State team that was without their leading scorer. The guy we talked about so much, Carver, didn't even play. And yet, what happens? You start off good. The first 10 to 12 minutes of that first half, you were doing fine. Your rotations were good. Your defensive presence inside was good against Noel, who had a terrible day, had 4 total points, 1 for 11 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep. He did grab 8 rebounds and knock down a couple free throws, but he was a non-factor in this game. So the two guys that we talked about that I thought were going to have to be the ones Indiana stopped didn't hurt him at all. Turns out Wright State had 2 other guys that wanted to have career nights. You had the guard who played 35 minutes, was 5 of 11 from the field, 3 of 6 from deep, and had 15 points. And then you had 2 guys who combined for almost 50. 2 guys that combined for 49 points. Okay, 49 from 2 guys for Wright State. You had the guard Holden, who went 8 of 17 from the floor, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, did a little bit of everything with 8 total rebounds in this game, 8 assists as well. The guy was flirting with a triple-double in college basketball, which is stupid, and had 24 points. He was more of their kind of for the Raiders, just kind of the middle ground guy, just the steady, consistent guy. But then there was the absolute freak performance from the bench for a guy that hadn't even been playing this year And Indiana lets a backup guard off the bench play 33 minutes, go 8 of 13 from the floor, 7 of 10 from three. The guy hadn't even been shooting threes this year and shot 70% from the three-point line and goes off for 25 points to carry this team and compete with the Hoosiers, another team that competed with the Hoosiers inside of Assembly Hall. Unbelievable, man. The first half, it was at the end of it, after all that, it was 54-49. Indiana had a double-digit lead for most of the first half, and you let Wright State go on a run to end it with a couple of threes, couple of turnovers, couple of rebounds, and all of a sudden, it's a 5-point game at the half. Then in the second half, Indiana kind of does the same thing, right? They kind of get out to a bigger lead. They're holding it for a little bit, but they can't ever just put Wright State away, right? They can't ever just put them away and win the game and not have to stress about it for 40 minutes. How many times have we talked about that? Wright State in their first 3 games, or excuse me, Indiana in their first 3 games, they've had to play 40 total minutes and 40 tough minutes against teams they should not have had to do that against. So overall, offensively, I was impressed. I really was. And when you look at some of the numbers for Indiana offensively, how could you not be, right? How could you not be impressed with what we saw? Malik Reneau, 8 of 13 from the floor. He didn't hit the lone 3 that he took, didn't hit his free throws. We're going to talk about that as well. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 16 points for Malik Reneau. That's all you need from him. That is all you can ask for. He was passing the ball. He was receiving passes, dunks, layups, jump shots, everything. Malik Reneau, if he gives you 8 of 13 and 16 points, 5 assists, and 8 rebounds, that is a perfect stat line for Malik Reneau. I mean, I cannot ask for anything more from him if he does that night in and night out. Mackenzie Mbako finally hit some shots, finally got some points. It may not have been the prettiest performance from deep. He was 1 of 7 from downtown, but you can see the stroke, right? The shooting stroke is nice. I think he's just got to get a little confidence. I don't think he should shoot it 7 times. Even if he makes 4 of them, I don't want to see him shoot it 7 times because that'll get to his head. But he played 23 minutes, which is good. He was playing deeper and later into the game, which is something we have not seen in these first 2. So maybe Mike Woodson's starting to trust him a little bit more. But 3 of 9. Here's the big thing, though. He made his free throws. He was one of 2 guys that actually made free throws. Maybe 1 of 3, I guess. But he made all 6 of his free throws, which is huge for a big guy. He went 6 of 6 from the line. He had 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He did have 4 fouls, which isn't good, but a better game from Mackenzie Mbako, something on this show that we've stressed. Trey Galloway had 15 points. That's cool. 3 of 7 from the floor, 1 of 4 from deep. I'd like to see that improve a hair, but 8 of 10 from the free throw line. I'll take that all day, right? We'll take that all day. And he had 6 assists from the guard spot. That is perfect. That's perfect. That's what you want from Galloway. He'll have games where he goes off, but 15.6 assists, again, I'm fine with that. Xavier Johnson, we'll get to this situation later. 26 minutes, 4 of 9 from the field, 1 of 2 from deep. Had a rebound, only 1 assist. I don't love that. And just the 9 points. He wasn't as big of a factor in this game offensively, but he didn't have to be. When all of the other starters go in double digits, that's okay. It's pretty rare to have all 5 guys go in double digits in your starting 5. And so I'm okay with Xavier Johnson only having 9 points. And I know we've got a scare there we got to talk about. And then Kel'el Ware. He did his thing again. Kel'el Ware, 9 of 11 from the field, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 12 total rebounds, and 22 points to carry this Indiana team. He is a walking double-double, ladies and gentlemen. There is no reason that Kel'el Ware should not have a double-double every time he steps on the floor. There's no reason. And Indiana knows that. They fed him the basketball, and I absolutely loved it. The offense is fine. We'll talk some more about that and what the defense has to do to Find some life, man. Quit letting people shoot the three ball. We'll talk about that coming up in just a second. But today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. And folks, if you haven't heard me talk about PrizePicks, man, these guys have it going on. I love PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match for up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports. You go on, you pick a combination of players from across different sports and different stat lines, and you simply pick more than or less than on what you think is going to happen. Combination of NBA players scoring a total amount of points, hockey players on a total amount of goals. You have just so many different options. Field goal kickers in the NFL on how many field goals they're going to make in the first half. You just pair those together between 2 and 6 combinations, and you watch the winnings roll in. Basketball season's here, and so you can now pick a combo predictions across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo predictions that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. How cool is that? I mean, nobody else can do things like that. And they also offer the reboot policy, and plus, with quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app right now. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. I use PrizePicks every day, and you should too. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Well, Indiana's offense, again, I'm happy with Indiana's offense, and I'm impressed with Indiana's offense. I think they had a really good showing in this game against Wright State, as they should, right? That's the expectation. You should play a good offensive game against Wright State without their leading scorer, without their big man really doing anything, right? But the problem is the defense is atrocious. The defense is abysmal. The defense is whatever bad adjective you want to throw in there. It's bad. And it's not even the interior defense. It's just the threes. It's just the threes, man. Indiana cannot find a way to stop people from shooting the basketball. This was not a good Wright State shooting team. It's not. Go look at their stats before this game. They hadn't won a game, and they weren't shooting the ball particularly well. But yet, Indiana found a way. They found a way to let a team come in and just shoot lights out, and not just shoot lights out against Indiana. They're letting teams come into Assembly Hall and do it. That's my big problem too. You're letting teams come on the road, hang around in this game, and just continue to knock down threes. And in this game, when their leading scorer doesn't even play, you let a guy off the bench that nobody's ever heard of have the best game this guy's ever played in his 20-something years of life, right? He has never shot this well in his life, right? 7 of 10 from 3 for 25 points off the bench, a guy that had not even shot threes this year. Come on, man. You can't let this happen. And here's the problem. This is happening against Wright State, against Army, against Florida Gulf Coast. What do you think is going to happen this weekend against UConn? Are you serious? Or against Kansas? Or in the Big Ten? Oh my gosh. Indiana's going to get annihilated from the three-point line. And God forbid this team plays an actual three-point shooting team, right? What happens when Indiana plays a team that can actually shoot the three consistently? They may drop 120 points and look like an NBA game. It's unbelievable. And the problem is, it's the same exact reason why. Indiana is helping too much on the ball. There's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for it. And I can't figure out when I'm watching the game I can't figure out if it's the game plan defensively for Mike Woodson or if all these Indiana players are just doing the same thing. I don't know. I have no idea. But the problem is, in the half court offense for an opposing team, well, of course, we'll use Wright State, for example. They're passing the ball around the perimeter, right? They were trying to go inside a little bit, but not a whole lot. And let me say this, too. Let me say this. Wright State made some tough shots. They did. They made some tough floaters, some tough twos that, I mean, there were some where you just got to sit back and just tip your hat, clap your hands, and move on, right? But all these open threes, man, I'm tired of it already. We're 3 games in, and I'm over it. I'm over it watching threes just roll in and be wide open because Indiana, when somebody has the ball on the right wing, for example, the guy in the corner or the guy at the top of the key, they're cheating over to help protect from the dribble drive. Why? Who cares? You've got Mackenzie Mbako and Kel'el Ware waiting in the paint to be menaces down there. Kel'el Ware had a great defensive game when the offense actually went inside. Not very often, but they did. And again, they made some tough shots. The one kid had a two-handed reverse layup underneath the basket. Like, what in the heck is that? But Indiana's so scared of the dribble drive that they're overhelping on defense. And then the offense is simply going, hey, that guy's open. And they pass it to him, and he's knocking it down. And when a team gets 26 attempts at the three, yeah, they're going to make some. And Wright State made 11 of them. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I have no explanation. And I know that doesn't help you a whole lot, the listener, but I can't put it into words. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're so scared of the dribble drive, drop into a 2-3 zone, right? Drop into the 2-3 zone where the defender then moves to the basketball rather than overhelping off of your man and leaving somebody wide open. I mean, I don't know what else to say because it's unacceptable. And you're 3 games in and it's happening every single game and the defense looks the exact same. In a college basketball game against a lower tier team than you, if you're Indiana and you put up 89 points, you should win every time. Now, the offense kind of stalled out in the second half. And by kind of, I mean they did. They did stall out in the second half. You went from scoring 54 in the first half to 35 in the second half. You can't have that happen. But I think your defense got better too. You let up 49 in the first half and only 31 in the second half. So I think that's more of adjustments on both teams rather than bad play by both teams, if that makes sense. But either way, an Indiana team that scores 89 points, this Indiana team should win most of your games. Scoring nearly 90 points in college basketball is good. That's really good. But the problem is you gave up 80 points to a Wright State team they're just not good, man. They're not good. Wright State shot 41% from the field, 42% from 3, knocking down 11 of them, compared to Indiana shooting 54% from the field, which is good. That's solid. That's what you want. But only 18% from 3 because Indiana, they can't shoot threes. And there's your biggest problem right there. That's your biggest problem. Indiana can't shoot threes, and you're letting opponents shoot them at will. And luckily, the Hoosiers have not been in a big hole yet this year, and they haven't had to have a big comeback yet. But man, when they get in that situation, and it's coming, let's just be honest, it's coming and probably pretty soon. What is Indiana going to do when they get down by double digits rather than being up by 10 or 15 like they were in this game? What happens when the Hoosiers are down by 12 against UConn on Sunday? What's going to happen? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You can't shoot the 3 effectively. You're 18%. And sure, you can go inside to Kel'el Ware, but let's say he gets a dunk, but you go on the other end and you give up a 3. Well, that's a point differential. You just lost the possession. You lost that 1 minute stretch, and now you're still down, but now you're down by 13. What is Indiana going to do? That's the issue here. And the other problem on the offensive side, I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth here, but Indiana's free throw shooting is not acceptable. 62% as a team is not good. That's not good. You're 20 of 32 in this game. You have to be better. And here's the thing. It's from guys that should be making them, and the ones you would think wouldn't make them are. Mackenzie Mbako, 6 of 6. Kel'el Ware, 4 of 5. Trey Galloway, 8 for 10. I know that's 3 of your misses, but that's a good percentage right there. That's a great percentage. That's 18 of 21. You'll take that. But Malik Reneau going 0 of 3. I know Xavier Johnson didn't get to the free throw line. Your bench shot horribly from the free throw line. Banks 0 of 3. Sparks 1 for 4. And Walker went 1 for 1. And by the way, your bench didn't play bad, right? Didn't play bad. You had 14 points off the bench. You'd like to see that be a little bit more, but not huge. Not a big deal. Cups didn't score. He got 18 minutes. Again, he's your energy guy, if anything. But you're going to have to shoot some free throws, and you're going to have to make some threes, and you're going to have to defend the three. And so again, my opinion, and I know there's been a lot of there's a lot of worry right now and anxiety and stress and just people are furious, man. Indiana fans are furious, and you should be. You absolutely should be. I don't think this is a bad team. I don't think this is a bad Indiana team. But if they don't figure it out defensively, they're going to get in trouble. They're going to be in trouble. And a season that I had really high hopes for could be ugly. It could be ugly. And look, Indiana made us have to get in some dogfights and some shootouts, but I don't trust the offense yet. One good game against Wright State doesn't give me the confidence to watch Indiana get in 90, 100-point shootouts just yet. The defense has to be better. Has to be better, especially on the three-point line. Unfortunately, coming out of this game for Indiana, not only are there defensive struggles and still things to work on, we've got a big injury to talk about that could really set this team back moving into a big game against UConn this weekend. We'll talk about that in just a second. Want to let you know that Locked On has done something really, really cool. They have launched, and we have launched, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's all different shows all throughout the day, 24/7, 365. Go check it out. We just launched it. We're very, very excited about it, and we would love for you to be a part of that. Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. We talk about Athletic Brewing a lot as they are changing the game in the non-alcoholic beers. As Athletic Brewing, they are just one of the ahead of the times companies, if you will, where they are completely changing the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full of flavor, well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. And I don't have to tell you, you may want to have a couple of drinks after watching some Indiana basketball, but what if you have to go to work the next day, like on a Friday, like right now? You don't want to feel groggy and terrible the next day. Check out Athletic Brewing and their non-alcoholic beers. Same great flavor, even better, really, but no bad feelings the next day, right? Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beating out full-strength beers in global competitions. They really are fit for all time, so you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity even more enjoyable. Watching the Indiana game, football or basketball, going to a party, or anything like that, right? You can enjoy these beverages without having the side effects of a normal alcoholic beverage. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Well, I know we've talked a lot about the offense and the defense and everything that we liked and didn't like from Indiana's performance against Wright State. And we thought Indiana was in the clear, right? We thought this game was over. We thought Indiana was going to escape with another slim victory. We were going to hop on here, hop on message boards, hop on X, right? We were going to drag this team for a while and kind of give all of our thoughts about the game itself. And then with about a minute 15 to play, you still have your starters in because the game's not over, because Indiana can't put teams away. And probably your most important, maybe your second most important player of the year goes down with an injury. Xavier Johnson, with about a minute 15 to play, goes down with an ankle injury on the far side of the court. And what appeared to be an ankle injury. And man, that is just not what you want to see. I don't know. I don't even know where to start on this, because Mike Woodson had comments. He said he didn't know. He didn't have an update. We would get an update today, and so we'll see what that looks like. Didn't look pretty though, right? Didn't look good. He obviously didn't return for the rest of the game. And let me just say this: if Xavier Johnson can't go, not just against UConn this weekend, but I'm saying like over the next few weeks, Indiana's in trouble. They're in trouble. And I know Johnson didn't have a great night in this Wright State game, but we all know he's the leader. We all know what he does for this team. We all know what he does offensively, orchestrating the offense, getting it going. He brings the ball up the floor. And he's a solid defensive player. And most importantly, he is your experienced leadership type of guy that will get this team through some tough times, like we've already seen this year. He's your leading guard. He's your point guard. He is your quarterback on this team. And if he cannot play for an extended amount of time, Indiana's in trouble. Because I'm going to ask you this question, and I'd love for you to comment down below on YouTube. Who's going to step in his place? Who steps in? Who takes over that role if Xavier Johnson's out? I haven't seen anything from anybody on the bench that gives me confidence that they can step in and be what they need to be. Maybe you have, but I haven't. Is it CJ Gunn or is it Gabe Cupps? Those are your two guards on the bench. It's not going to be Sparks. It's not going to be Walker, of course. They're too big. Not going to be Banks. So you're looking at CJ Gunn or Gabe Cupps. You can make an argument for either one, I guess. But there's going to be, and no offense to those guys, but that's a significant drop-off right now from what Xavier Johnson brings you to what either Gunn or Cupps is going to give you. My vote, I think, would be Gabe Cupps, just because of the energy he brings, because of the early maturity that he brings, which is kind of surprising. But you're going to lose some offensive efficiency. You're going to lose a lot of that. And I think at that point, you would see teams put a little pressure on Indiana, maybe some full court pressure, and put a lot of stress on him, on Gabe Cupps, if he were to be the one to come in and do most of the ball handling. And at that point, I think you would see Trey Galloway handle the ball a lot as well. And I think you would have to, just to get the ball into somebody's hands that has been there before. This is not good, man. This is not good. I hope it's not much. I hope we kind of get some updates as we go. But if Indiana can't have Xavier Johnson, I don't think it completely shuts down your offense, but it's going to take a dip. It's going to take a dive, and there's going to be some times in a game where it's tight, it's stressful, and Indiana doesn't have him to look to, doesn't have him to help teach. And that's going to hurt this team, I think. So we hope for the best. We pray for the best for Xavier Johnson. And again, who steps in his place? Let me know, because I think my vote would be Gabe Cupps, but I would love to hear from you and see what you say. And all we can hope is that he comes back quickly. And Indiana's got a lot to work on, man. They got a lot to work on. And I know you're frustrated. I know you're upset. I am too. It's not, at times, it's been fun basketball to watch. This was a more fun game to watch for me than the other ones. But I'm tired of Indiana playing 40-minute games against teams they should beat in the first half. I'm just tired of it. Now you've got to go and play UConn. How do you get up for that game if you're Indiana? We're going to find out. We're going to find out what this team's made of really quickly this weekend against UConn. And speaking of that, we'll have a special bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers previewing the Indiana-UConn game. That'll go up tomorrow on Saturday. So be sure that you check that out. It'll be a shorter video, but it'll be a full preview of Indiana and UConn coming up. That's on, the game is on Sunday. We'll have the game, or the preview episode, come out tomorrow on Saturday. So be sure that you check that out. I appreciate you making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Be sure you go and check out the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel, 24/7 coverage from all of our great Locked On shows. This one, Locked On Hoosiers, we're on there sometimes. It rotates. There's great stuff on there. So be sure you go and check that out. Again, tomorrow we'll have a special bonus episode previewing Indiana and UConn. And as always, Hoosier fans, it's going to be okay. Things got to get better, but it's going to be okay. And until next time, stay safe, Hoosier fans, and I'll talk to you later.